Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Shakti Speaks. We're on our fourth round today. It's Shakti Cabral and myself, Megan Buchman, and we're talking about all kinds of interesting topics that encapsulate the wisdom that Shakti has been accumulating for many, many years. And we've already done three of these. And today we want to speak as a bit of a continuation on our previous talk, which was about the dark feminine, the dark masculine, the divine masculine. Today we want to talk about the meeting point between the two and sort of the vital energy that rises when these two aspects combine within every person. And it's really all about living in alignment and yes, how we can all do a little bit more of that. That was my version of the intro. Shakti, would you like to put it in your words, since these are your ideas? I'd love to hear how you encapsulate our episode for today.
Thanks, Megan. Yeah, it really is a continuation of the last. Like every episode that we are making together seems to be just emerging and growing organically as we overlap from the last episode into the next one. Like so, there's a continuation of all of them. Then we move into onto another topic that is still also related. But yeah, what I noticed last time, when talking about the divine masculine and the divine feminine, that there is always a meeting place, and that meeting place is the space in the middle where you're both aware. One is aware of the other, right? So, and this meeting place is a place that doesn't only apply to us on the inside of the masculine and the feminine energies, but it's also how we relate in relationships. If we just are able to talk about and perceive from our own perspective, from our own point of view, there's always going to be some kind of friction in some way, shape, or form, unless you're talking to someone who's exactly the same as you, right? So, in order to to collaborate with people and to live in harmony with people, we need to be able to have some idea of where they're coming from. And it also it's the same in cultures. I mean, I've lived in Thailand for many years, and I see people getting upset because they don't understand the Thai way, but and they might think that it's rude and it's just a misunderstanding because there are huge cultural differences and different gestures and mannerisms mean different things in different cultures. So what you think could be normal and a regular way of communicating is offensive to someone else. And if you don't know that straight away, you're not getting on. So the meeting place is a really important place, and through the experiences that I've had and the experiences that I've had with my clients, it's important to recognize that inside of yourself first. Because if it doesn't start at home, if it doesn't start here, then everything else is going to be a reflection of what isn't seen, what's been misunderstood, because that's the energy that we put out. It's just a frequency that gets matched. It's simple. So what needs to happen is that when our divine masculine, our divine feminine rises and we meet and they come together, they communicate. There's a communication between the two. Where the divine masculine, the art of allowing, this expression of the feminine to be seen and to love yourself anyway, to love that expression, not be like, oh no, but there's no place in the world for that particular art form or that particular form of creativity. That's like suppressing who you are. It's about allowing all of that to shine and be seen and to love that anyway. And if you make mistakes, to have compassion for yourself, to treat yourself with kindness. Like this is I mean, this is taught, this is ancient wisdom. This isn't, this isn't new, but, when we talk about compassion and kindness, but really it's not to beat ourselves up for things if we make mistakes, because that's how we learn, and often in relationships, we'll beat ourselves up for falling in love with someone who hurt us, for example, and we're already hurting. What's the point of making yourself feel even worse? There isn't really. And can you love yourself anyway? There's nothing wrong with loving somebody. There's nothing wrong with opening your heart and being in love. Okay, it might, if it goes wrong and we feel hurt, then we can look at those parts of ourselves, but we haven't done anything wrong.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so it's about practicing the art of allowing, loving yourself anyway, and being in the middle, because when you're in the middle, right, if you think of it like a center point, you've got a really good view, you've got a really good take of the whole picture of both sides, and then you can be like, so have you ever, like, it's like mediating, you know
Yes.
two people, you sit in the middle, and you're not attached to this outcome or that outcome, you're not on their side or that side. It's just you're in the center, and you're just looking from a perspective of, okay, I can see where you're coming from, I understand where you're coming from as well. So how can we how can we reach a solution?
Mhm.
How can we reach um how can we be inspired about this topic or whatever it is?
Would you say that this point that you're describing, this sort of in between point, is that similar to being in alignment? Do you feel like you're in an aligned state when you're able to center yourself in this way and not get lost in the one point, on the one side or the other side? Okay. And the concept
In
of being
like being harmonious, being centered, being in that middle point. Yeah.
I feel like the concept of living in alignment gets a lot of airtime, and a lot of people have things to say about it because it's something that most of us, I guess, well, most of the people listening probably, and most of the people in the world that we operate in strive towards. But how would you characterize living in alignment? What are the signs, or what things could you pick up that you are, more or less in this aligned place versus getting caught up in one one side or the other side of the story?
Okay, so living in alignment is about doing what you came here to do, doing what you do best, doing what you love, and being connected to and with the ancient and inner wisdom that you've always had, and being an expression of that.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you can be connected to inspiration, you can be connected to earth and to nature. Live in alignment with nature. One of the worst things that you can do is forget all about that and have technology be your God, because you lose connection with your nature, and your soul is nature, and your essential being and your body is made up of the elements. And you stay in connection with that, because that's where your infinite power is. That's where your infinite wisdom is. That's where inspiration is. That's where your truth sits. It's not in AI.
Mhm.
So stay connected to your innermost organic, love based living light. I say that a lot, right?
Yeah, if you haven't yet, listen to our previous talk because Shakti goes into detail into what her personal protocol is, and using these words, I highly recommend you just have a little look at that.
Yeah, because I mean the thing is, when you leave, when you're done here on this planet, right, and you've actually done what you came here to do, and whatever that is, right, you're not gonna get you're not gonna get like any points for how many likes you got on Instagram. It's what's going to happen is what you're a vibrational match to it will dictate where you go. So if you want to live in alignment and you want to achieve your highest and greatest good and do what you came here to do, it's important to be to live in alignment. And disaster actually means the meaning of disaster means disar star, which means being out of alignment with the stars that you came in through.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So when you're living out of alignment, what happens is you put yourself, say you've got this beam of energy, and I'm sitting in this beam of energy, and I'm getting everything that I need. I'm inspired. I don't know what I'm going to say next, but it comes out of my mouth anyway. But then I'll wander off to to the right here, and I'm getting really distracted by something else, and I
Hmm.
don't really like. Oh no, I'm not. I'm more interested in where you're going than where I am, but I don't really understand it. It doesn't really fit, but I'm going to do it anyway. And what happens is I end up really vulnerable. Because I'm not living in my own strength. I've come out of alignment with my own life force, with my own vital energy, and I'm living someone else's dream. I'm walking someone else's path, and I'm doing what someone else wants me to do. And at some point, I'm not going to be happy.
Hmm.
At some point, I'm going to be, what am I doing? Like, it's a bitter pill to swallow when you realize you've been living someone else's dream. Like you collaborate, you find a meeting place, you find a middle point that works for both of you, and you communicate. The thing that's key is communication on the inside and externally. If you don't communicate, people assume, or you feel ignored or suppressed or downtrodden, you know? When you communicate, you start to understand the other. You start to have an understanding of other perspectives, other ways.
Yes.
And if one way isn't working, you do it differently.
Hmm.
So ways of not living in alignment, like how to tell if you're
Yes.
not living in alignment, is it doesn't feel good. Disasters keep happening. Things keep going wrong in your life. You don't feel happy. You get a feeling inside. It can feel tight. It can feel down. You, it's different. It's a different feeling to when something is coming up for you and you feel emotional and you just need to release it. You just need to cry it out. This living out of, when you're out of alignment, it's like you keep making the same mistakes over and over again. You start having thoughts that don't feel good in your body and you keep having them. Life keeps dealing you stuff that you don't want or need. And that's when there's something inside you that you're not listening to, that you need to stop and breathe and feel.
And if you realize that this is happening to you, or that you're perhaps on someone else's path, how do you bring yourself back? How do you get back to a place of alignment?
Well, first of all, you've got to realize it,
Mm.
right? And then, okay, so I'll just do a little practice, right? So
Okay.
to anybody who's listening as well. So if you've got choices in your life, like this is what this person wants me to do, right? And here I am, and I've got these other options, right? One thing that you can do is ask yourself, like, what would love do? Like, if I really loved myself, or what would someone that I know who really, really loves themselves, what would they do in this situation? Right? That's one thing. The other thing that you could do is like you can either close your eyes or keep your eyes open, but put yourself into a happy place. So like you could close your eyes for a moment and just remember a time in your life when you felt really, really happy. It might be that you can't remember a time when you felt really, really happy. So then go into a space that is your idea of paradise, like a beautiful sunset, beautiful oceans or rolling mountains, the most beautiful flowers, valleys, the aromas and flavors and sounds that you really love. right? And just put yourself into that space and just notice how that feels. And now imagine that you're either living the option that you've been confused about, or you're doing the thing that someone else wants you to do. And you've entered into that life. You've made the choice to do that, and you're doing it. And it's happening right now. You're in it. You've made the decision. This is your life. And just sit with it for a few moments and notice how it feels in your body. Notice how it feels in your heart center. Does it feel comfortable? Does it feel heavy? Does it feel like nothing? And then bring yourself into your happy space again. Beautiful scenery, favorite colors, animals, plants, aromas. And now imagine that you're living the other choice, the other option, or you're doing what you wanted to do. You've made the choice, you're doing it, it's happening, you're in it. Notice how it feels in your body, in your heart. And then bring yourself back into your happy space. Beautiful scenery, favorite sounds, colors, aromas, animals, people. And open your eyes. What you do, yeah. And what you do is you pick the one that feels best. Right. So if they both feel good, it doesn't matter. If they both feel rubbish, wait, because there's a better option that you haven't thought about yet. But you can do this with one up with two options. You can do it with three options. Obviously, don't complicate it too much. But you're gonna feel the one that feels best for you. Did you notice?
I felt my heart was opening in the one and contracting in the other one. My whole posture was sort of contracting versus in the other one, it was sort of, I was getting bigger and more, I was filling up more of myself.
Yeah. So my advice is to go with that one, the one that felt the best. Because then what happens is everything on your path that you meet based on that choice is there for your own good. It's there for your own expansion, for you know your highest and greatest good. The other one, I mean, you can play around with these. I mean, you can pick the one that doesn't feel good, but really, is there any point when you've already actually had an inner tuition that's telling you that that's the better option? Your body, your heart, your soul knows it's got your best interests at heart, and your intuition, which is your inner tuition, has always got your back. It's always working in the background for your highest and greatest good, but people don't often listen to it. But that's a really good way of doing it, and I've made a lot of choices based on that.
A lot of heart-based choices, I imagine.
Yeah, and what it does is that you can just relax about your life then and get on with it. This is okay, I know this felt good, so I'm going with it. But it's important to put yourself into your happy space first. Otherwise, you can just make fear-based choices. You need to change your frequency into a higher one before you make the choice. There's no point making a choice in a emotional fear-based frequency because it's not really going to benefit you in any way. It doesn't make any sense to do that. Why
And I
would you?
imagine the more you practice this and the more often you visit this space, the easier it gets, because then is question, a curiosity. Is there a point where you are essentially just living in this heart-based space and you notice immediately when you jump out? Or is it,
Well, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. You just you get used to it, and then you feel it when it's not when it's not right, when it
yeah.
doesn't suit you. But just because it doesn't suit you doesn't mean no, got to stop this. Like, just sit with it and ask yourself, is this a trigger? Is this me? Am I feeling emotional about this because it means something else? Or is this just not a good choice? Like, really be aware of what is going on in your world and around you, and communicate with all of those things, and test it out, and then you are living in flow state, then you are living in your highest and greatest good, then you are embracing all the lessons that you need to learn.
Mhm.
But if you don't allow yourself to feel and communicate with yourself, you're never going to learn anything new.
Mhm. Lot to chew on there. Very, very, very powerful. I'm thinking of cases in my own life where I've found myself out of alignment and what has brought me there. And for me, and I imagine it's the same for many other people listening, I know it's the same for many other people in the world. When I start taking on things that are not mine, then I get out of alignment. So when I'm in a certain dynamic, in a certain relationship, in a certain agreement with someone, at certain points my energy starts to get drained from this
Mm.
dynamic. Do you have sort of an additional piece of advice, if, because I mean there's other ways to be out of alignment than that, I think, but if this is the case for you, what would you suggest for someone who particularly struggles in relationships or friendships or any kind of a relationship to drain their energy to the other person?
I'd say stop and take some space.
Hmm.
It can be a few hours, it could be a few days, but just stop, take some space, just be by yourself for a little while. Like, if the person that you're with isn't even going to give you that space, then really you don't want to be with them, because what happens is you cross over, and like, say if your energy as a person is red, and their energy as a person is blue, and when you come together and your energies change, and you become that color, like, mixes, those colors mix, two colors mixes, and you become purple. You can lose yourself in that. So what you need to do is take some time apart and come back into your own energy, like, release their energy to them, bring your energy back to you, and go, okay, where am I here? What am I doing? How am I doing it? But take space to be alone. Otherwise, you can just lose yourself in a relationship, and then, before you know it, so many years have gone past, and you're like, what, hang on a minute, before I met you, I wanted to do these things, and I forgot about them, and I haven't done that. But if you can come together and complement each other, that's beautiful. But yeah, no, you do that's how you would come home to yourself again, is just really just take some time to be with yourself. It's healthy. It's
Yeah.
healthy.
And I think,
Because otherwise you start
oh,
processing. Yeah, otherwise you start processing the other person's stuff as well, and it's not yours.
mhm.
So how are you ever going to work that out? It's not yours to work out. It's helpful to see what the other person needs to do. If they want your help and they ask you for it, you can say what you've observed. But what they do about that and how they do it, that's their business, and vice versa.
And on the same topic, we've talked before about the difference between a healthy compromise in a relationship or a betrayal of self in terms of a dynamic, because of course you're not the other person, two people, you're two separate entities, you have two different ideas. how would you know if the compromises that you are making or are willing to make in a relationship are actually the good kind, or when you're actually, I think the words you used previously was, when you're becoming downtrodden because you constantly end up in a worse position, let's say.
Okay, so what I would suggest that any person does in at that point is sit with themselves again and make sure that all their needs are met. So you would become the source of your own needs. You would give yourself the attention or the love or the space to expand, to express, to feel everything. So give yourself that space and love yourself anyway. Just have compassion and kindness for
Mm-hmm.
yourself. Other than beating yourself up, why would you want to do that if you're already feeling down? So there's no point. So forget that. But give yourself the love, the affection, whatever it is that you need, give it to yourself. And then see if that situation has altered to you. Because often what happens is you can start sounding off from a part of yourself that is wounded, that has been forgotten about, that was suppressed, that's actually got nothing to do with the person who you're with now, who whatever relationship you're in, whether it's a friendship or a relationship or partnership or whatever. But it's got nothing to do with them. It's actually your own stuff. They're just getting on with their lives. So if you can resolve that within yourself and be the source of that for yourself, then when you reassess the situation or the scenario that you were in, it might look different because you've changed. Your perspective has changed. You feel better about it. And it might not even be an issue anymore. If it's still an issue, then communicate. Communicate with them. Then it's about boundaries and just saying, look, this particular thing isn't working for me. I'm not going to go there. It's
Mm-hmm.
not for me. There's nothing wrong with that.
And to bring it right back to where we started, being connected to your vital energy and living in alignment, if two parties are living in alignment, do you think, or is there less tension or less, is it more smooth sailing or not necessarily? Do you still bump up against these things regardless of how much you're living in alignment? Because the reason I'm asking, I've heard before some people saying that they were quite disenchanted when they entered a relationship and they thought, but I'm in alignment and this person is in alignment, so everything should be great now, but then you still bump up against things. How do you make sense?
Yeah, okay, because it's how you communicate in the meeting space.
Mhm.
Can you let the person be? Can you let yourself be? Like what is really going on? And it also depends when you meet. What kind of energy have you got? Like, how old are you? You can be young and flexible and have loads of energy to change and find yourself, and or you could have grown alone and become older
Mm.
and wiser and know yourself, long in the tooth we call it in England. But and so is the other person, but you're very different. So it takes longer to find that compromise. But if the love is there and you've decided that you want to grow because of it, and each part takes responsibility for the way that they're feeling and communicates it, brings it to the table and talks about it in an adult respectful way, then you can usually resolve the situation whether you stay together or not.
Mhm, mhm.
But I mean, there's the most potential for growth when you find that to and fro that happens. You know, it's more. Of course, it's. I mean, it's a huge topic, isn't it? And you know, couples have therapy over it, and then they have therapy by themselves. It's a massive area for expansion and learning and growth. just whether or not you choose to do it together or not,
Mm-hmm.
if you can. But you both need to be willing to do it.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think it's possible.
Oh, there are definitely examples. There are definitely examples.
And if at the end of the day it still doesn't work, then so be it,
Mm.
to know when to walk away.
Are there any other thoughts that you want to add just to the what we started with, being in your vital energy, living in alignment? Is there something that we haven't talked about yet that you would want to add to the
There's
last?
bound, there's bound to be things that I want to add after.
Mm-hmm.
Um, right now, I can't think of things, but this is how we continue on to the next.
Yes, exactly.
I'm probably gonna have like thoughts that come up after this of like, oh yeah, there's this arena that I haven't talked
Yes.
about. But no, I think living in alignment is where we all were once upon a time when we lived in tribes and we lived with nature, and we had to because we had to survive and thrive in the world. Like nowadays, it's very easy for us to just live, but do we really like? How much do we grow? Like, how much is handed to us on a plate? How privileged do we think we are? You know, what are we up against? Um, all of that is debatable, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel that the best thing everybody can do is connect with nature. Remember this planet. If when you live in alignment, right, and you live in your vital energy, it's not just your own energy that gets really powerful, but you become an expression of energy. You're like a superfood to nature. But it's just an expression because nature gives. It doesn't absorb. It gives and it attracts and it expresses and it just it's just so beautiful. It's so beautiful and everything interacts. There's a beautiful meeting place in nature. You have to learn to harmonize. You have to learn to respect. You have to learn to value. You can't. If you lived in nature and you were just reckless with it all the time, you'd have no food, you'd have no water, you'd have no shelter. You know, you have to learn to respect it. You've got to learn. You've got to watch. You've got to communicate. You've got to listen. You've got to sit and you've got to feel. But in order for us to thrive, we need to connect to the elements and stay connected to nature. Do not get lost in your head. Do not get lost in in greed and in gratification and all the things that all the things that you should be and you could be. Just be who you are and connect with your environment, feel it and work with it because it's always been here. It will always be here. It's what the planets, it's what the stars, and it's what the cosmos is made up of. It's what your soul is made up of. It's who you are. Amen.
Amen. Agreed. I also know we mentioned it last time, and we can mention it again that you're creating a wonderful space in nature in Portugal, in the Portuguese Algarve, and that's just in a few weeks now. I think it should be a month today. Well, on day of recording, it'll be a month. The day of this episode coming out, it will be a little bit less. Um, do you want to say anything more about Awaken? That's happening.
Awaken. Well, I mean, awaken is really it's all about what I've just talked about.
Mm.
It's about awakening to yourself, to your true nature of who you are and what you are. Like we're using sound frequencies. We just got our gong. I'm so
Yeah.
excited. It's a pretty gorgeous gong.
And the crystal
And
balls have already arrived. The gong's coming next. It's all.
and the chimes have arrived. So and Ronnie already has her drum with her. There's other bells as well. We're using lots of instruments. We're using crystals. We're using scent. We're using qigong. We're using yoga. We're using movement. It's all about communicating with all of these parts of ourselves together and up and out our greatest strengths, truths, and embody the wisdom that lies within us. It's always there. We're just here to help you to find it. And it's like a concentrated shot of all of this. That's what retreats are like, and both Ronnie and myself, our experience is huge. I think we've got about 50 years combined experience.
Yes, it's unbelievable. It's so rare to have that much experience packed into, a container like this. Like it's really going to be something very magnificent.
Like Ronnie started her journey with enrichment and like just learning about innate wisdom on this planet in this life when she was 17. I started when I was 22, so we'll be 57 this year. So we're not spring chickens. we kind of know our stuff.
You absolutely do. So if you're listening, if you're a woman or if you have a woman in your life, this one is for women. I know you generally work with men and women, but this opportunity is for the feminine beings, and it's between the 15th and the 22nd of June. It's in Algesur in Portugal, and it's just the most gorgeous location. It's absolutely magnificent. I've been there. We went scouting together, and it blew us all away. So
we went there together, didn't we?
Something wonderful.
So I mean, we're working with women because we are women. That's why but we'll be working with the masculine and the feminine energies and the meeting place.
Absolutely, it's a great opportunity to get in alignment. If you feel like you're on someone else's path, if you feel like you're missing that point of alignment, this is gonna turbo boost you into alignment for sure. Well, wonderful. I think we said all the things, and thanks to everyone listening. Please always reach out, comment. Shakti always answers if you have a question about this or if there's a topic that you're really interested in. We sort of take it as it goes. So if there's something that you thought, I'd love to hear more on this, just comment it on the video, send Shakti a message. Her details are always linked below the videos.
And just as a little sprinkling, maybe next time or the time afterwards, we'll be talking about like the multidimensional soul and the species and things like that, which is like far more than what you would just experience maybe on this planet, but start thinking about species. There's many species on this planet. There's many species in the cosmos as well. And it's a beautiful place.
What a cliffhanger.
Connecting to your nature, that's your doorway into all of it. So inwards and expansive. All right, that's it.
That's it. Thank you, Shakti. Thank you so much for sharing so generously, sharing your wisdom. I'm always happy to receive it. I know everybody else that watches is also grateful. So,
all right.
that was
Thanks a lot.
Ciao.
Love to you all.